This is Mike Kinney, otherwise known as Cowboy Gator Magraw, and you're watching the Wrestling Nerd Broadcast.
You're watching the Wrestling Nerd Broadcast. Now here's your hosts, Tom, Nick, and Dave. It's you, it's me, it's N.R.D. It's you, it's me, it's N.R.D. Let's start the show.
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. It is you, it is me, it is P, it is D. And ladies and gentlemen, this week on the Wrestling Nerd Broadcast, we are happy to have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mike Kinney, a.k.a. Cowboy Gator Magraw. Cowboy, it is good to have you on the broadcast this week.
Well, I don't know if I deserve that intro, but thank you for having me.
Now, you do deserve it because you are taking a leap of faith that only two other people that we're aware of right now are doing, and that is immortalizing yourself in figure form. We've been doing this broadcast for over 4 years now. We've always talked about how cool it would be to immortalize ourselves in figure form, and you yourself are having your very own Micro Brawler made. So first question right out of the gate, do you collect Micro Brawlers?
I have a love-hate relationship with them. I started out, and to be honest, I started out collecting them, and it was the early days when they were still available in the bags.
Mm-hmm.
And I had even made because I'm based out of the Twin Cities area in Minnesota, and I had done some work in Chicago, and even had an opportunity to stop at the Pro Wrestling Tees store when they had that. And to show you how long ago that was, Taz was available on the shelf for me just to go and buy just a little Taz in a baggie and walk out the door. So, yeah, I mean, and then COVID certainly ramped things up quite a bit. And I had to decide what were my rules in terms of collecting Micro Brawlers. And for a long time, it was just ECW. And then I ran out of room and had to purge that collection. And now here we are.
Very interesting.
COVID destroyed me because I had that unemployment money, and a lot of toys were coming to my house to where I had recently purged my Micro Brawlers to now I have, I think, 0.
Okay.
Wow.
I had 100. No, I had 200 something.
You did. You had a lot.
I had a lot.
I spent that COVID money on the Jericho cruise. I got that $1,200 check and just sent it right out the next day.
Nice.
What was the first Micro Brawler you got?
Golly, I got to think about that. I think the first one that I actually sought out, aside from, because I didn't buy the Taz one for me, and it was before I was actually collecting. I actually bought it for my sister, who was a huge Taz fan back in the day. I think the first one that I sought out was the Sandman. I think that was my first one.
Very nice.
It's a good brawler. It's a little short, but good brawler.
Yeah.
Now, we have talked about, how you are being immortalized in figure form and having a Micro Brawler made. What made you decide that this is the route you want to take and invest, because it is not cheap. We've seen the numbers. Obviously we'll get to how you are trying to fund this whole project and how people are going to be able to get their hands on the Brawler. But what made you decide to take this leap and go for it?
So when I did wrestle, one of the things that was always working in my favor, I was not, and I'll be the first to admit this, I was not the best in-ring technician. Bringing up the Sandman again, I'm a lot of entrance, and once you get into the ring, you just kind of let the other guy do their thing and go, just kind of roll with it. So I did a lot of self-promotion, and I was one of the first guys that I had seen that had their own actual website, and I had been advertising it on my vest and ring gear I wore at the time. And I was mastering the marketing side of the wrestling business before anybody else was. And so because of that, I was one of the only probably 2 people in Minnesota at the time that were being flown across the country to wrestle places. And honestly, my in-ring ability is very limited. So the fact that, so many other guys were getting passed over because they didn't understand that marketing arm was kind of a travesty. So I ran with it. And when I had the bright idea to try to do a bit of a return to the ring this year, it's just a natural fit for me. My professional background now is in sales and marketing, ironically enough. And so it made a lot of sense, and everything was lining up right at the same time. I mean, if you guys seen the numbers, we got, anybody who has a Pro Wrestling Tees store got the email from Pro Wrestling Tees saying this is available. And I looked at it and I was like, God, it's a very steep investment. Just to get the rendering of your picture was 1/4 of the total dollar amount.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I don't want to just be, I don't want to not have a rendering of it, because that's kind of the opening the door to how much fun this whole thing can be. So I paid for that out of pocket, with the hopes that I had to tell the folks at Pro Wrestling Tees, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to pay for the rest of it. And then I'm out that giant amount of money just for the rendering. But hopefully the Kickstarter works in my favor, and we'll be on our way.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Kickstarter. So what exactly, we know, but tell our audience what the Kickstarter is going to be supporting.
So it's a very, very long story, and in order for me to be able to tell it, I'll tell a very short story to do it.
Okay.
I back in 2017, I was fortunate enough to get selected at the time I was working for UPS, and they had a corporate partnership with the TED Talk organization. And the TED group had solicited all 500,000 UPS employees for ideas to do a TED Talk, in collaboration with them co-hosting an event with UPS. And there was a marketing tool on UPS's part to be able to get information out there. And the year that, and to be frank with you, I didn't really know what TED Talks were. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know how deep they could go. The year that I had applied was the third year that UPS was doing that with the TED organization. And the year previous to me, there was a woman who worked for UPS, but she had previously worked in the soap opera industry. And her TED Talk was on life lessons learned from watching soap operas. So immediately I'm like soap operas and pro wrestling are pretty much the same thing, right? So in a lot of ways. And I thought, great, the idea I'll submit is life lessons learned from watching pro wrestling. And it kind of morphed over time, over about a 7-month span, into this deeper story about me having, found my self-confidence through having been in the pro wrestling business. And there's an emotional tug to it, where I talk about losing my father at a young age. And it's just like this whole healing process that I didn't even know I needed, which was very cool. Well, along the way, after that got done, there were about 12 of us that got selected to do that event from all over the world. All flew into Atlanta to do that event. And 4 of us got selected to go to TED.com. And that kind of changed everything for me after that. I was being asked to do a lot of public speaking events, and I loved doing it. The problem is that UPS owned my TED Talk, and any residuals that were going to come from that, and any public speaking engagements I had to do, had to get blessed by corporate. And if you're familiar with the way the corporate world works at all, it is a giant monster to try to navigate. And they straight up told me that if you try to do anything without our permission, we will fire you. And, a couple of years later, it's 2021 at this point. UPS went through a bunch of changes. At that point in my career, I'd been there 14 years, and I was laid off. And so as hard as that was, it also freed me up to go, wow, the handcuffs are off, and I can kind of do whatever I want with the TED stuff now. So I got back to writing my book, which is an extended version of the TED Talk. So I worked on that for a year, and when that went to Amazon.com, for one day, it was just for one day, but it became a bestseller for a day. And
that's awesome.
If you know anything about my wrestling past, I was in the WWE for one day. So there's a pattern forming, right?
Yeah.
But that's all we ever need, is just that one day. And so, ironically enough, right around the same time, I got laid off from a second job. So I got laid off twice in 12 months.
Oh.
So now at this point, I have a book and a TED Talk that had gone viral talking about self-confidence when I'm trying to pick myself up by my bootstraps after getting laid off twice in 12 months.
Goodness.
It was a very, very tough road back. And so eventually landed on my feet. And when I did, I thought, I need to be able to tell the rest of the story. And there's a piece of I intentionally left out of my TED Talk. At the time, I was sober for 2 years when I did my TED Talk, and I didn't tell anybody. I was kind of suffering in silence. I struggled with alcoholism, and I didn't talk about it. And I think that over time now, I think it was last fall, I just got it in my brain that it's time to tell the rest of that story, and I just didn't know how. And I had run into some people that I knew from my wrestling past, and just I showed up to a couple of shows, and I hadn't gone to shows in a very long time, and it just kind of got my brain working. Like, what if I came back to tell the rest of the story, but along the way, along my journey back to the ring, I'm able to tell people about, you know, the fall that happens to all of us, and frankly, the loss of self-identity that happens to a lot of athletes after they're done with whatever it is they're pursuing. It happened to me, and depression came from it, and thus the alcoholism. So I told you a very long story, but what's happening with it is that it's being filmed as a documentary, and it's not a documentary about the comeback of some pro wrestler that nobody's ever heard of. I'm very self-aware when it comes to where I stand in the wrestling world, but it's so much bigger than that, and nobody ever tells the story. You know, we're all told as we're growing up, you know, you can be whatever you want to be, but then at some point, some people can't, or it ends, and we never talk about the then what. Like, what happens next? Well, you've lived your dream, and then what's the rest of your life going to look like? And that's the part that I want to be able to capture in the documentary. So we're interviewing all kinds of pro wrestlers, independent pro wrestlers. There's one or two that had been in the WWE that live locally that may be helping out. We don't quite know yet. We're going to interview some sports psychologists to talk about how the brain works once you kind of lost your identity and whatever it is that you're pursuing as a career. And so there's just so many elements to it that we're going to use the story of me returning to the ring as the vessel to like move the story along. And you know, along the way, there's a lot happening. I'm in this weird weight loss journey and retraining and trying to, you know, order gear again, but all of it, you know, the film itself is not something that's being thrown together by a couple of friends. These are people that have worked for Netflix, they've worked for National Geographic, they know what they're doing. They think the film really has legs, and it's got a massive budget. And as I'm helping produce it, I'm trying to help raise funds for it. So naturally, it just made sense to me that I'm going to go to the community that I know so well, which is the pro wrestling community, and ask them to come along on this ride with me. And if they have the funds to be able to jump into the journey, great. If not, then any support that they can throw at it is appreciated. But I'm going to give them the opportunity to do that. So that's the film, and that's the Kickstarter is really going to lift up the first half of filming. We've been filming for about 6 months now. Once the final match happens, we're going to do some interviews and things like that, and then we go into post-production. And post-production is really the more expensive part of the film industry, as I'm learning. So the front half of the film is going to be hopefully lifted up by the Kickstarter.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Like, I didn't know about that. That's awesome. Like,
Tom doesn't do research. I do.
I don't do anything. I show up and say,
it's all good.
That is, yeah, you got my blood moving. Like that's fucking cool, man.
I have feelings right now.
I mean, I'm heavy in the feelings today. It's crazy. I don't want to get into it. I'm good. Just a lot of feelings today. That was really cool to hear. Like, one of my goals is to do a TED Talk. Like, I love what they can do for a community. And then just hearing how you're using this toy to help fund this documentary about finding your identity after it happens. Like, oh man.
I believe the TED Talk has over 1.5 million views, something like that. When I last looked this afternoon,
that's awesome.
It's pretty insane. That's pretty awesome. And also you mentioned your fight with alcoholism. I saw you posted 10 years sober, so congratulations to you on that. That's absolutely incredible and should be celebrated.
Thank you.
To not go to a less serious moment, if you're looking for wrestlers to be in this documentary, I had a single match. And here's a photo of me and my puppet beating up another wrestler and his puppet.
Look at you.
This is one of the greatest pieces of art I've ever seen happen. Just the two men with dueling puppets. I've never been more happy to be a
pro
part
wrestling,
of
man. Love it.
It is.
I'll tell you. So I'm an optician. I do glasses for a living.
Okay.
I was at the local wrestling show that comes through by me. I was there, and they always get like jazzed up and they announce that I'm there, and I think it's really silly, but it's sweet. Two patients of mine are apparently there all the time and love that. And one of them came in for their eye exam this week and brought her husband, and all they did was talk to me about wrestling. And my bosses were like, dude, you have work to do. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of famous.
I am working.
I'm working
the room.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. Wrestling's cool, man. Like I joke every week I hate wrestling. But like wrestling's kind of cool for these things.
It's such a, it's really hard if you're not involved in the wrestling business as a fan or otherwise. It's really hard to explain to people. And the closest thing I've ever seen is NASCAR. And I'm not a NASCAR guy by any means. I understand where their fans' mentality is, so I kind of appreciate it a little bit, but that's the closest thing I've ever seen. Pro wrestling. The fact that you said you kind of hate wrestling lets me know that you're a huge wrestling fan. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's how I know.
Yeah. It's because I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to be entertained. I love watching grown men in their underwear fight for a belt.
Yep.
It's the best.
Throw a little baby oil on, you got a whole thing going on, man. It's awesome.
That's what I was missing in my match. I still had my shirt on. I didn't have baby oil on.
Okay. All right.
He asked if I wanted him to rip my shirt off. I go, no, this shirt costs me money.
No, we're not that famous yet. Speaking of outfits, I do have to ask about your work in WWE for the day. I couldn't pinpoint the year on it, but I want to say it was around 2006-07. You were a security guard, if my memory serves correctly, for a segment with Edge and Lita. So I'm always fascinated to hear, how do you get extra work with WWE, and like how do they just say like you're going to be a security guard today?
Yeah, it's 2005.
Okay.
So you were very, very close.
So close.
Dave, you idiot.
I know. Overshot.
The Raw was going to be in Green Bay, and again, I'm based out of the Twin Cities area, and which is about a let's say a 5-hour drive. And so at that time I was wrestling pretty heavy. 2005 was a really good year for me. I was wrestling probably 3 nights a week on average, maybe 4. So I happened to be driving home from a show, and I remember being really excited. And I believe it was a Friday night, because I remember for the first time in a while I was going to have Sunday off. So we were going to do a shot on Saturday, and I was in a car with a few other guys. We had a shot coming on Saturday, Sunday off, and then that was kind of it. So we're driving back in the middle of the night, and Ken Kennedy had called me, and he's the one that said, hey, they're looking for guys to come in. Here's what you need to bring to dress. They're probably going to let you work out in the ring. I don't know, but be prepared for that. So all kinds of stuff, right? And can you do it? I'm like, done, dude. Like, my car is like falling apart, being duct taped together. I'm making no money on the indies, but I will figure out how to get to Green Bay. Yes, I will be there. Mm-hmm. So showed up, and I think call time was like 11 a.m. So we show up to the arena, and just marking out the minute you arrive, because I'm walking into this giant arena. I must be really, really important, right? But you're not. Like, the minute you walk back there, it's like you're nobody. And not that I was anybody anyway, but I mean, if you really want to find out how little you are, you go into that locker room. But it was an interesting environment, because I remember, like, I walked down a hallway, and the only other person walking toward me is Vince. And that whole thing you hear about him is like that big swagger and the whole thing. That's legit, dude. He doesn't look at anybody. He wasn't talking to anybody. I sure as heck wasn't going to say anything. They made all of the guys. There were probably there were a bunch of us that got brought in from the local indie circuit there to do extra work that day. And they like took us to wardrobe, and we all got fitted for our security outfits. we didn't get to work out in the ring that day, and I was really bummed about it, but we got to like go out to the ring while the other guys were working out. And I remember Colt Cabana was working out with oh gosh, he ended up getting a contract later. He passed away not too long ago, I think, in trying to save his daughter in some water or something like that. Chad or Chaz or
Shad, yep.
Okay. I remember Cabana was working out with him in the ring, and Arn Anderson was the guy in the ring, like navigating traffic. Watching Stacy Keebler walk up and down the stairs to exercise was a lot of fun. She was going up and down over here, and it's just so surreal to like. And you see some of the other like guys that are under contract are sitting around the ring in the audience chairs, and they're like poking fun at the guys in the ring. So it's very awkward. And then, most of the time we just kind of hung out in catering because there was nowhere else to go. They had all the extras. We were dressing in the garage by the trucks. They had a little, there was an area that was like roped off for us. And CM Punk was there that day, and he was getting, I think it might've been one of his very first dark matches, but I remember he was pissed because he had to dress with the extras, and it was a whole thing. But we reported to Stephanie McMahon. She was super cool. She was very sweet. I actually been emailing back and forth with Stevie Richards as of like today, because I talk about in my TED Talk how the locker room accepted me for that one day. I'm specifically talking about Stevie Richards. The catering is like this great big room with all this food that kind of changes out every couple of hours. And you just try to sit in the corner and mind your own business and try not to like make a scene of yourself. And Stevie Richards came over and sat directly next to me with some of the other extras. And he was under contract, and he was so humble. And I just sat there and like picked his brain. I was a big ECW guy, like I said. And I just like talked to him the whole time. And he was just the man. Like, he was so cool, and he didn't have to be. He didn't know who we were. Yeah. And I thanked him for that today. In fact, he just saw the TED Talk, and I said, I was talking about you, dude. Like, that's you. So yeah, it's a very surreal experience. They paid us in cash, which I can't complain about. My wife came with me. She had to buy a ticket to the show, which is fascinating. But yeah, Monday Night Raw live on TV. And so I knew that we were going to get one shot at the camera. We rehearsed it beforehand several times, and I knew where that camera was going to be, and I knew he was going to be standing right by me. And so I was just trying to make the most like stern, wrestling face that I could. And and it worked, because they did a close up on me with, you can see in the photo, it's got Edge and Lita in the background. And,
yep.
I had my day.
Was it like the hardest thing ever to not just like turn to the camera and just
what was actually harder is that there were people in the audience that I recognized, and they recognized me, and they were trying to get me to break character. So it was so hard for me not to start smiling, because I was so excited. And I called all my friends when I was in the locker room, like, we're on the first segment, you guys got to watch it right away. Right. So I was already amped. And when I could feel that camera like right in my face, and I'm seeing faces that I know that are trying to like get me to laugh, that was the hardest part of that whole thing, because
that's awesome.
Who knows what would happen. Yeah.
We have a new segment for our exclusive for our Patreon, that we go back and we watch old pay-per-views and episodes of Raw, SmackDown, whatnot, whatever's on Peacock. I think we may have to watch that episode of Raw and recap it. Tom, I'm just saying, just throwing that out there.
I hate wrestling. Don't make me watch it.
We're gonna make you watch more. It's part of the job. This is our job now.
It's not.
It is. It feels like it sometimes.
That's true.
But I have to ask, Gator, what are your thoughts on Aaron Corbin? And you can cuss, swear, use whatever derogatory terms you want.
Do you want the Gator version, or do you want the Mike version? They're
Yes.
two different things. Okay. So let me start with the Mike version. Aaron and I broke into wrestling at the exact same time. We lived together for a short time. We trained together for a very long time. And after we were trained, we traveled together for a very long time. I've known him so incredibly well. But when I left wrestling, and now he and I have recently talked about this, and I didn't realize how bad that I had affected some people when I left. when I left wrestling, I quit it cold turkey. Like it was something that was bad for you and needed to, like just quitting smoking, quitting cold turkey, done. Like it's bad for me, no more. Well, it hurt me so bad intellectually to do that. I told you that I slipped into depression, and that kind of was odd for me as well, because I left wrestling and 6 months later, my wife had her first child. And so like I was depressed, but didn't want to admit it because that would make me a terrible father. And like all these, like you talked about emotions earlier, that was brutal. So during all of that, I had distanced myself from wrestling so incredibly far, because I knew, because you see all these guys that like leave and come back and leave and come back. And I didn't want to do that. I had a very nice send off. I got to wrestle one of my very good friends. They hoisted me on their shoulders. I got to wave goodbye. It was a whole thing. I didn't want to go, but I left. And so I was like, that's it. Cold turkey, no more. I didn't watch wrestling. I didn't talk about wrestling. And in that process, I sabotaged a lot of friendships unintentionally, or maybe intentionally. Aaron told me recently it felt like I had divorced him and the boys, and I'd never heard him say that to me before. So that hit me a little differently. We ended up capturing this great conversation he and I had about it. The filmmakers caught that conversation, so I hope it'll end up in the film. But when I had the idea to do the match, I had reached out to the promoter that I'm working with right now, and kind of pitched it to him. And I didn't know none of the guys that are working anymore. I didn't know any of them. I'd seen one or two shows, but I don't know these guys. But Aaron's still around. He's still wrestling. And keep in mind, we broke in the late 90s. And so, we're 43 years old, and he's still going strong. And so it was like, I don't remember what day of the week it was that I pitched it to the promoter. Let's say it was a Monday. On Tuesday, Aaron called me, and I haven't talked to Aaron in like 7 years. And so I knew immediately when I saw my phone like ringing with his face on it. I'm like, oh man, he knows. And I answered it. And the first thing he says, not hello, not anything else, he says, tell me it's true. And I said, man, I'm trying to keep this thing quiet. How is it that you already know about it? And what I didn't know is he's helping run some of those shows for that promoter. And that promoter had pitched it to Aaron as like, hey, we need somebody to take care of Mike in the ring that knows what they're doing. And isn't going to hurt him. And so that's basically how it all started. And I was like, I couldn't think of anybody better that I would probably want to work. Aaron's a really good heel. I always work as a baby face, and I trust him to call it. I trust him to not hurt me. I trust him to be able to like let me kind of do my thing. And I think that for me to think about the gravity of that show, how big it's already going to be, me having to worry about the match is like one less thing. And if you've been in the ring, which I know you have, you know how big that is, because that's all you worry about. And it's not just that day. It's like the days leading up to it. You're just sweating about this match. And so I'm just thankful that like Aaron's the guy in this scenario, and we can be rough on each other. And I'm probably going to be a little stiff on him, and I invite him to be stiff on me, and I could be less apologetic for it. We don't have to worry about all that bullshit. We can just go out there and work and have some fun and make some memories together. But if it's Gator talk, and how dare you, Aaron Corbin, get involved with my fans, and you get involved with my family, and now that my family's involved, you're done. I'm coming for you. You don't know when, you don't know where, but you better watch your back. You better watch your back, because you are mine.
Love it.
However you want to do that.
I have two questions. I have two questions. One, when and where is this match?
So there's a bit of a wrinkle in all of this. This promotion runs an annual event. It's like their WrestleMania, and they run it with a nonprofit local to the Twin Cities. The show draws like 1,300 people. It's a big show. And I thought, if I'm going to come back and do a match, it has to be in a situation like that.
Yeah.
So typically it's been in St. Paul, Minnesota. This year, there's a couple of issues with of getting the show booked. It usually happens October every year, but as of right this moment in time, they don't have a venue booked. They don't have a date booked. I've offered to kind of I've promoted many shows in my time, and I've offered to kind of come in and help them promote if we have to do this.
Yeah.
And I talked to the filmmakers the other day, because this company is going, we don't even know if we're going to do the show necessarily. And I said, look, this show has to happen. So either you guys are going to do the show, or I'm going to run the show myself under my own banner in a bigger venue, just to get it on film. Because they made an offer for me to do it at a venue that seats like 200, and it's a very small, like essentially like a VFW type place. And I said, we can't do that. Like that's not building the story at all. And so this is so much bigger than just like my ego needing to be in front of a whole bunch of people. It's like, it's kind of part of the story that we need to tell here.
Yeah.
So there's so many, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts, and we're trying to figure all that out right now. I don't know all the details, but right now we're planning kind of a late October date.
In the Minneapolis area.
In the Twin Cities, yeah, for sure.
It's only an 8.5 hour drive from me.
That's not bad, Tom.
Listen, here's the thing is, my buddy owns a eyewear boutique out there, so I can make it a work trip.
Fans, join our Patreon, patreon.com/WNRDB, so we can get gas for Tom. Just saying.
Love it. I love it.
Question. Oh, I have 2 questions, Dave.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Question number 2: where did the name Cowboy Gator come from? Because I love that.
Yeah, when I first started out, I didn't want to be Mike Kinney, and I needed a name. And I remember like getting prepared for my first match, and I was like, I don't know what my name is. And I had a picture, for whatever reason, from a WWF magazine of Skinner on my wall, and there's like an alligator skin and behind him, and he's got the chewing tobacco all over his face. And I just went, I'll be Gator, I guess. I'll just be Gator. And so I didn't have any gear. I wore like a t-shirt and pants, and like it was very, very early days, if you will.
Yeah.
But the Gator part stuck. And as I got more involved in wrestling and started to understand the marketing side of it, I started to kind of look around at the other wrestlers that were around me. And UFC was really taken off at that point, and everybody wanted to be this serious wrestler in tights and kick pads, and everybody looked the same, and everybody did the same shit. And I was like, man, if I'm going to get on more shows around here, I can't look like all these other dudes. I got to just set myself apart. Nobody was doing any cowboy stuff then. And we're in the North, and typically you don't see cowboys anyway. So I was like, well, I'm going to do something that's completely out of my comfort zone. I'm going to go from a t-shirt and full pants down to trunks, and try to run this like cowboy angle and see what I can do. So I knew it was going to be Cowboy Gator something. And I remember literally sitting on an apartment by myself, and I'm like flipping through the channels, and there's a commercial talking about some country music awards coming up, and they had like Tim McGraw came across the screen. And so I was like taking all kinds of names. It was like Trace Adkins, okay, Gator Adkins, Gator Magraw, right? And then so I'm like playing with all these names, and I'm running it by some of the other guys. And they're like, maybe this one, maybe that one. I even thought like Gator Hansen because of Stan Hansen, right? Like all these different things. Finally, we landed on McGraw, and I went, okay, now I don't want to be like Tim McGraw. I want to do something just a little bit different. So I went Magraw, which in some ways came back to bite me because nobody spells McGraw like that, right? But it's mine.
No, I love it.
I made it mine. Yeah.
I love it.
That is fantastic. So we're about a half hour plus into this interview, and I think we've successfully avoided long enough where we've made people watch the Kickstarter with the Micro Brawler. What are the tier rewards, various tier rewards for the Kickstarter, and where can we find the Micro Brawler on the tier reward?
Yeah, I have been playing with this in my brain for a while because I don't want to price the Micro Brawlers out of the market because I know how important they are to collectors in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure that if it's at a tier level that seems high to me, are they getting enough value for it? Because there's all these other things that I'm learning about Kickstarter and all that stuff while I'm doing this that I didn't know. I didn't know about all the fees. I mean, I knew about the fees, but I just didn't know about all the fees. Then there's all the packaging, and there's the shipping. There's just so many things that go into it just beyond like funding a figure, right? So I'll tell you the reward tier in a second, but before I do, there's all kinds of stuff that we're going to be offering. We're going to be offering signed autobiographies of mine. I'm partnering with a couple of different companies, which is really cool. So there's a local artist out of the Twin Cities who does a lot of really, really cool spray paint art for a lot of the the Timberwolves and the Minnesota Twins, and does some like really fantastic stuff. He's going to do a run of 12 rectangular turnbuckle pads with my spray paint art of Gator Magraw on them. So we're going to have 10 of those available for the Kickstarter. I'm going to keep one, and then I'm giving another one to a friend of mine. Then there's another company that's going to make relic cards. So there's going to be just like little trading cards of mine. It's going to have little cutout pieces of a pair of trunks that I wore way back in the day that they're going to make those for me. And there's a local, I'm a big barbecue guy, and there's a local barbecue sauce and rub company that are big wrestling fans. And they're going to make a limited edition Cowboy Gator Magraw barbecue rub that's going to be available. So there's just an exclusive T-shirt. There's just all these things that are happening in it. Now, the Micro Brawler. The Micro Brawler is going to be in the $75 tier. Okay. With the Micro Brawler, it's the Micro Brawler. It's the book. It's a signed 8x10. It's a digital copy of the film. It's your name in the credits. And I'm probably missing one or two other things in there, but when I've kind of pitched it around to a number of people inside the industry and outside the industry, they're all coming back telling me the value's there. And so I hope so. I hope $75 isn't pricing people out of the market when it comes to the Micro Brawler, because I'd really like to make this thing happen. But I'm going to ask you, it's not written in stone yet. I can still make changes where, the Kickstarter page is still being built. Where would you think that it would fall? Because there's a $10 tier, there's a 25, there's a 50, and then the 75 is Micro Brawler, and obviously they go up from there.
So remind me again, what do you get with the 70? You get the Brawler, the book, the T-shirt, and the autograph?
No, not the T-shirt. I got to think about this now.
It was the Brawler, your name in the credits, the autograph, and the digital copy
of the film.
I mean, I'm not against it.
Yeah, for what you get, I think it's a fair value. Micro Brawlers being what they are, I mean, it is a limited edition 500 run. I think Brawlers typically start nowadays. What, Tom? Pre-order like $25 shipped. I mean, I just bought Matt Cardona's latest Brawler. Shock and awe. Don't tell my wife. I think it was $36 shipped. So for an extra $36, you're getting all that other stuff.
Yeah,
plus access to a documentary. I think it's very fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out of the Micro Brawler game entirely. For all the perks it makes sense. Like, yeah, because it's late June the Kickstarter is supposed to go live, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. So the reason for that is that June 21st, I'm actually involved in another Aaron Corbin, Gator Magraw standoff thing, and that hopefully will be the day that the match will be announced. Mm-hmm. Thus, the next day the Kickstarter goes live.
Yeah.
So, and regardless of if the match gets announced or not, June 22nd, 2025, that Kickstarter will go live that day.
Yeah,
and it will be live for about 30 days.
Yeah, because I mean, in my thought process is the way you just pitched the documentary, it's just worth it for that.
Yeah, 100%.
It freaks me out a little bit because we're trying to raise $50,000 with the Kickstarter. Now, the rewards alone, by the time I pay for them and get them shipped out, eat up half of that money. Yep. And so, and it's because I don't want to I just don't want bullshit rewards, like the turnbuckle pads and all the other stuff with the higher tiers. It's some really cool shit. And I just didn't want to just make it some just random thing for the sake of making it. If we're going to do this, we need to go balls to the wall and make it fun.
Yeah.
We call it going whole ass. You don't want to half ass. Go whole ass.
That's right. We're going whole ass on this one.
There's a new T-shirt.
I'm in.
So if it doesn't get funded, I'm going to be heartbroken. We're still going to move forward with the film. The film itself just got, there's a company in the Twin Cities that works with a lot of independent filmmakers. It's called Film North. We have just been approved to be fiscally sponsored, which means if people want to donate money to the project, tax-free, they certainly can do that as well. So some people like to donate to charities. So with the film itself now will be designated as a 501c3. So charitable donations and all that stuff are going to be green lighted at this point. And so we've got that going for us to hopefully lift up some of the funding, but that's just not as fun as a Kickstarter with all this other shit going on. So it's just not.
Who cares about charities? We're talking about action figures here, people.
I have
God.
Fuck them kids.
I have one final question, more Micro Brawler related than anything.
Okay.
My final question. I don't know what Dave has to say. So like you're the first one that I've seen get a rendering. What was that process like?
For me, so do we want to talk about the numbers here? Do we want
Yeah,
to talk
sure.
about the investment? Okay.
That's
So
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
okay. So Pro Wrestling Tees is like, look, guys, you can either order 500 or 1,000 brawlers. Obviously, you get a price break at 1,000, and they'll also let you do 100 chase micro brawlers if you order the 1,000. It's a steeper investment, but the investment for the 500 is like $4,000. But they need $1,000 up front just for the rendering, and that's when I told you, like, it's a gamble. I'm going to pay for it out of my own pocket and see what happens. But I didn't want to show up to a fight without the rendering. Now, I'm not knocking anybody else that's tried to hustle and do their own thing and try to raise money for it. I think all that's great. I just believe that if you're going to go, you need to go whole ass, right? So I wanted to show up to the party with something of value, and that is an actual rendering that they created for me. They asked for what I want to look like in the front, what I want to look like in the back. And luckily, I had a lot of studio shots that I saved everything, every photo, every newspaper article, everything I still have. So I knew I had some of those reference shots that I could send over to them. We went back and forth on a couple of samples that they gave me, and we finally landed on that one. I think it looks fantastic. And, but that was the process. It probably took 3 weeks back and forth total, and before they had the render for me. Yeah. So it's such a great thing though to make these kinds of things available to people like me, that, you know, there's a reason that I can use this. I'm not just trying to shill it out there for the sake of shilling it. Like, it's a valuable part of what I'm trying to do. And I think that, you know, I've been a wrestling fan forever. It's all I ever wanted to do, man. And the idea, just the idea that I might have a wrestling figure of me, a legitimate wrestling figure, is just, that's a big deal. That's a very, very big deal. So I'm pumped about it.
No, it's definitely awesome. We're gonna encourage our viewers to definitely support the Kickstarter with any amount they can. Because it's wrestling community, I'm sure somebody will bitch. But you know what I tell them? That's simple. Nobody's making you buy it. But the figure looks incredible. We thank you so much for letting us show our Patreons first on patreon.com/WNRDB. The reception that it's gotten from our fans has been nothing but exceptional. That we're all excited for this one. So it looks great. The whole Kickstarter project's great. Your story's fantastic. It kicks all the ass. It kicks full ass.
Kicks whole ass.
Like top to bottom.
Brawler.
Like, I don't like to play favorites on all this because I've been told I do with Cardona and whatnot. If that brawler comes in this year, that's got a good shot at making a good run on the rankings. We rank every micro brawler that gets released in the calendar year.
Okay.
First time we did it, 247 brawlers, took us 8 hours. Just,
oh my gosh,
we were ready to murder one another after that. We got a system down.
We do this all on Zoom because we're all in different states.
But yeah, that brawler's got a chance to make a good run. You know,
in my opinion, it's up there.
The next piece of this is even kind of cooler. So I'm having brand new gear completely redesigned for this event. I have very specific color scheme I want. It's my wardrobe's a bit more higher end than I had before. It's being made by someone who's making gear for guys in the WWE and AEW. So it's looking so good. I just know that, like, when this gets done, because I got a little bit more gray in the beard than I do in the Micro Brawler, you know. So that's the younger Gator. That's the younger Gator. So I think that if this works out the way I want it to, I'm going to invest in that 1,000 run with the chase, with the newer design for the next one, and that'll be just something that I can sell on my website and things like that. I'll just have it in hand and because I'm still wanting to go and do, after this is all done, I still want to be involved with wrestling. I still want to go out and do public speaking engagements. I still want to be able to do these things. And to have some merch on the site as well, some tangible things that people can get their hands on. There's no reason I shouldn't do it. So that's kind of like the pie in the sky goal for all of it. If it all works out, and just keep moving, man.
I'd love to link you up with the folks. There's the wrestling promotion that comes out by me. I'm literally on Lake Michigan outside of Grand Rapids. There's a company called Pure Pro Wrestling out of Flint. So like literally the opposite side of the state is me. And I just think that your humanness is something that the guy who runs it, Joe, he wrestled as Xavier Justice for a while, I think you two would just hit it off very well.
Very cool. Yeah, SummerSlam is coming to the Twin Cities in 2026. Yep. And I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of WrestleCon convention. Something is going to be attached to it in some way.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to get a booth there. I've been talking to the other filmmakers about it, just to, be able to promote the film and promote some things and be able to move. The more connections I can make in wrestling, whether it's in Michigan or anywhere else, man, I am all for it, because it's such a great community, and it's really hard to replicate that in any other way. And there's no place else. I've tried to quit cold turkey, like I told you, but here I am 18 years later with that same group of people, and they've welcomed me with open arms. It's kind of emotional for me to even think about, but it's unbelievable. And so, yeah, I want to be able to give back and help as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. You should come out to Jersey for SummerSlam this year. I'll be there. I'll even go to WrestleCon just to meet you. So,
oh man,
you know what? I'd even volunteer to help.
When is that, Dave?
April 2nd and 3rd, I believe, is SummerSlam. So I'm assuming WrestleCon is probably like that Thursday.
No, August.
What'd I say?
You said April.
Whoops. So
I'm
trust me.
in Jersey that week.
You should come, Tom. You should come.
I'm not going to SummerSlam, but I might see you.
Jonas Brothers are at MetLife the following week. Well, I only know that because my wife is going, and I just so happen to be going with her.
So to tell Jack I said hi. It's been years since I've seen him, so
we will. But Gator, it has been so great having you on. There's so much we could still talk about for another hour or two. So we'll definitely have to have you back on. But the floor is yours. Plug whatever you'd like. Your book, your TED Talk, your podcast, all that good stuff. Take it away, sir.
Well, first of all, I can't thank you guys enough for the opportunity. When I reached out to you to see if there was any interest in me even posting my idea online, and the reception that you guys gave me was fantastic. So I can't thank you enough for the work you've been doing on this. You didn't have to do any of it, and it truly means a lot to me that you guys are involved in it. So thank you. If people want to follow me online, my Instagram is at Gator Magraw, Magraw, not Tim McGraw with the MC. I'm also on Facebook. You could find me on there. And then my website is currently getting revamped, but KinneyConfidence.com. That is where you will be able to find all of my information and my store and all of that stuff. So the Kickstarter itself, let's talk about that. The Kickstarter will also be linked on all of my socials. It'll be linked on KinneyConfidence.com. I will be putting out there as often as I can to be able to get some people interested in helping me tell this story. So if you are one of those people that are interested in it, thank you in advance for believing in someone who probably doesn't deserve it in a lot of ways. But I'm glad I'm in a position to tell the story, and I'm glad that you might be in a position to be able to help me tell it. So thank you guys. It's been an amazing experience tonight, and I can't thank you enough.
Of course.
Yeah, we appreciate you very much.
Yes, this was fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've got your instructions. You have your marching orders. The Kickstarter, June 21st. Buy the Brawler.
22nd.
No, what was that?
June 22nd.
June 22nd.
Shit. God damn it. June 22nd. I can't get any dates right. It'll be in the comment section. I promise. We'll link it there. Go buy the Brawler. Don't bitch about the price. We all have adult jobs. Quit spending money on whatever frivolous things you do. You don't need the extra hot fudge sundae. You don't need an extra Totino's pizza roll bag. Save your money. Put it towards the Brawler. You heard. I said what I said, Tom. I said what I said.
Personal attack.
I have Celeste cheese pizzas in my freezer right now because I'm a grown man with grown man money. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to do with your grown people money, give it to us. ProWrestlingTees.com/The Wrestling Nerd Broadcast. That's nerd spelled N-R-D. Patreon.com/WNRDB, where you can nominate and watch us review old wrestling. You can also get your name in the credits. We'll send you free stuff, all that good stuff. I'm still selling mystery boxes, ladies and gentlemen. $30. You get 5 shirts and all sorts of tchotchkes and socks. Help me clean out my office. Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you decide to call it nowadays. Go ahead, follow us there. And right below Tom is the subscribe button on YouTube. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting for? The time is now, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe. If you're already subscribed, thank you. If you're not, click the button. Do a great thing. And on behalf of myself, the future king of the nerds, Tom says hi, Sasso. And the one, the only Cowboy. Don't forget to tell your mother you love her every day because, like Kevin Durant said, Mom, you're the real MVP. Good night, everyone. And God bless America.
Hey, because this is just what I do now. Believe in yourself. Go full ass. Go whole ass. Take that shit down. You could do it. Tomorrow's my birthday, and I'm going whole ass tomorrow. I'm going to eat some fucking food. Whole fucking ass. I'm going to sit on a calzone, motherfucker.